Assalamu alaikum, Talib.
Walaikum salam.
Akhi, inshallah, for the brothers, can you tell us the two conditions for an act of worship in Islam?
Sincerity, and you've got to follow the Prophet. Ikhlas wa tiba'at al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sincerity and following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So, say there's a person, for example, he's celebrating a Prophet's birthday. He really wants to basically please Allah by celebrating a Prophet's birthday, and showing respect to the Prophet. Why is something like that wrong?
One, because first and foremost, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never ordered a person, for one, to celebrate his birthday, nor did Sahaba ever do this. Secondly, this is a way of the non-Muslims, and you've been prohibited from following the non-Muslims. So based upon that, it's forbidden to to do what the non-Muslims do, or to go against what the Sahaba did. And the Prophet ﷺ said that we have only two Eids, two celebrations, and that is Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. So if it had been something that would have been recommended, or been legislated, or been something that would have brought you closer to Allah, then the Sahaba would have been those who would have foremost been to initiate it. Had it been any good, then it would have been done by the best of the people who were more eager and more zealous to do those things that would have made them get close to Allah, such as the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And Imam Malik said that which rectified the first part, the only way the last part of this ummah will be rectified, is by following those who came before me, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. So based upon that, we see that following the likes of the non-Muslims, this is the custom. And I say that, why would somebody choose one day out of 365 days to glorify and praise and think about his Prophet? If we was to say that it was a day we celebrate the Prophet's birthday or give praise and gratitude to the Prophet ﷺ, it should be every day, even though we don't call it the Prophet's birthday. We say that every day should be, but we just don't use that word. We're saying that that's the Prophet's birthday. It should be every day a person should be thinking about the Prophet in the fact that he doesn't overly exalt the remembrance of the Prophet. Like he said, don't over exaggerate in exalting me like the Jews and Christians did, and so as to take it as an act of worship. So we say that going overboard, that obviously the ummah is to be the balance, and we say by doing these things a person's going overboard. But like I said anyway, there's the same reasons why a person's not allowed to say do Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, because we say that, or these so-called names they have today, like honeymoon. Every day if a person gets married, it should be like, even though we don't call it that, it should be that it's a honeymoon. So it shouldn't be like things like Father's Day should be more or less in Islam. We don't call it that, but it should be every day Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. It should be like one day a year you choose to glorify and think about the Prophet. A person should be thinking about the Prophet. Like the Prophet said, a person will not taste sweetness of Iman until he makes me become the most belovedest thing in his life, more than his family and all of mankind altogether. So based upon this, it is something that is a new innovation, and definition of an innovation, bid'ah, is something that the Prophet never legislated, that after he died the people made up. And we know that in the next life, the people who make up innovations, Jibril alayhi salam, when the people come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the next life, Jibril stops the Muslims in paradise from coming to be in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet said, Ummati, Ummati, and Jibril says, Innaka la ta'rif ma ahdathu ba'dak. You don't know what they did after you. So doing new innovations prevent a person from being in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ in the next life.
So you're saying
shows severity.
So you're saying that there's a hadith or ayat that says that basically when the Muslims on the Day of Judgment, when the Muslims on the Day of Judgment are being let into paradise,
they're prevented from sitting in the presence of the Prophet because of bid'ah. And we know that in the creed of Imam Barbahari, it says that the Salafis say the most beloved thing to the shaitan was not sins, it was innovations. Because sins, you generally would repent from a sin because you're acknowledging it's wrong. But with an innovation and bid'ah, you never really think that it's wrong, so you continue doing it and then die upon it. And as to the Prophet ﷺ said, Sharr amur muhdathatuha, the worst affairs are the new affairs. The worst Sharrun Amor, the most severest, the most worst affairs are those affairs that are the new affairs. So we know the Umar said, Radiallahu anhu, Ya Hajjatul Aswad, O black stone, inni a'rif innaka la tanfa la tadur. You do not benefit or you do not harm. And had I not seen the Prophet kissing you, I wouldn't kiss you. Meaning if the Prophet didn't do something, we would never do this, ever. So we know just in lesser things than actually like prescribed things, the fard, they used to follow the Prophet, and if the Prophet ﷺ never used to do it, they would always refrain from doing anything that would violate and be a cause for them to be umbilically disconnected from the mercy of Allah on the Day of Judgment.
Jazakallah khairan. Akhi, can you please, inshallah,
I'm waiting for the other side.
inshallah, could you please just give us a hadith for the youth, please, inshallah. Leave us with a hadith in Arabic for the youth.
There's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka karib." Be in this world as though you are a stranger or abid sabil. To Ibn Umar, the Prophet ﷺ put his hand on the shoulder of Ibn Umar, the most notable of the companions, the most rigidest of the companions. He said, "Be in this world as though you're a stranger or a welfare, and know, And then Ibn Umar, at the end of the narration, he said that when the Prophet had given me this mighty admonition to be in this world as though I'm a stranger, not that I'm going to live here and to get comfortable, to think I'm always going to live, to be here as though you're just a traveller, you're just going on a journey, and you will reach your destiny. He said after the Prophet had given him such a mighty admonition that he used to think when the night came, he wouldn't see the morning, and when the morning came, he wouldn't see the night. And they said the reason why he done that was because so as to make him not procrastinate. So he would think that.
Yeah, so know that you haven't got forever.
Yeah, he wouldn't think that he's got all day or all week or all month to delay whatever it is.
Thank you, Talib, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.